Hey guys, this 2021 GP1800R came in with a classic low power complaint. No alarms, no codes, just a ski that felt lazy and underpowered. The usual boost related failures weren't the issue, and what I found next is something you wouldn't have expected. The first thing you should always check on the supercharged skis is whether the throttle body to intercooler J-pipe hose is properly secured. Sometimes they pop off if a clamp loosens up, but they can also be installed wrong and just cause a pressure leak. In order to check for this problem on your ski, you'll need a mirror and a decent light. The hose needs to be touching the stop flanges on both the intercooler and the throttle body for it to be properly installed. This is how the hose should look when it is properly secured, and the clamps are in the best position to tighten them with a 7mm nut driver. That wasn't actually the problem with this ski, and the supercharger clutch was not bad, because the upper hose was swelling, showing boost was present. Since I scanned the ski and there were no faults present, the next step was checking fuel pressure. If you haven't bought one of these inline fuel pressure check tools, you really should have one. Checking fuel pressure is one of the basics you should always check first. Check my description for links to the fuel pressure tool and the proper pliers needed to release the quick release fuel fittings on the tool. I ended up not filming the low pressure reading, but the reading was actually 37 to 39 psi when tested. The proper healthy reading should be 49 to 52 psi. After checking the hours and finding the ski had just over 40 hours on it, I was completely surprised when I saw what was in the fuel tank. In order to get to the fuel pump, you need to remove the front storage partition, then reposition anything in the way, disconnect everything on top of the fuel pump, remove all the mount nuts, and you can pull it out. I was not expecting to see the fuel pump covered in rust and considerably more rust piled up in the tank. Here is a better look at the rust that hadn't made it into the fuel pump assembly just yet. Obviously, every bit of the fuel and rust is going to need to be cleaned out of the tank. Here is a better look at the condition of the fuel pump. The fuel level sender arm is so rusted that it's about to snap. I decided to go ahead and disassemble the fuel pump housing to see if it could be rebuilt, but after finding the housing, the filter, pump, and pressure regulator all full of rust, replacing the fuel pump assembly was the most economical way to fix it. Now it's time to get the rust and contaminated fuel out of the tank. I have found these smaller oil extractors work pretty well when sucking out small particles of rust. I normally concentrate on getting the rust out first using the mirror and the extractor suction. This can be a pretty tedious process to clean the tank out the way I'm doing it, but it beats removing the engine, then the gas tank to clean it the proper way. Sometimes the extractor tip will get clogged from time to time, and all you have to do is wipe it clean or open up the tip with a pick or something similar. It is really surprising to see this much rust come out of a jet ski with only 40 hours on it, but it can happen at any time. I poured the fuel through a rag to try and get all of the rust out of the fuel, and this is what was left. Definitely something you don't want in your fuel. I'm almost done getting all of the rust out of the tank, but I typically take one extra step, and that is to use a toilet brush with a rag attached to it to swab the inside of the tank clean. I came up with this idea because I was trying to find the best way to get the tank cleaned out without removing the engine or the gas tank. Using a mirror and the brush has proven to be very effective, especially since this is a plastic fuel tank. If you have the same problem, just take your time and make sure the tank is as clean as you can get it. When you pull the brush out and it starts to come out clean, you know you're pretty much done. This is how clean the tank got when I was finished with it. We're just about ready to start reassembling everything. The most cost-effective way to fix this ski was to order complete used fuel pump assembly, so that's what I did. When I got the pump, it was missing 2 of the rubber feet, so I pulled those from the original pump to put on it. When you get ready to put the replacement fuel pump assembly in, it is easiest to drop the float paddle in the tank first, then pivot the main body of the pump into the opening. The fuel pump really only fits properly one way with the middle mount collar on top, so just point the fuel line port towards the engine and you'll find the rubber feet will line up in the bottom of the tank. Once the pump is sitting in the tank, drop the metal collar on top of it, line up the bolt holes, and you're ready to start putting in the hardware. There are a lot of mount nuts securing the fuel pump to the tank, and they're typically brass, so be careful not to drop any because they're not magnetic. If you use anything other than a 9-volt or 12-volt nut driver to tighten these, you could end up breaking a stud off, so be careful not to use an overpowered tool. When I'm done with using the nut driver power tool, I like to go back over the hardware and use my favorite Tighten micro ratchet to be sure all of the hardware is fully tightened. When you finish tightening all the hardware, you can now hook up the fuel rail hose and connect both of the wiring plugs to the pump. The wiring plugs only hook up one way, so don't worry about inverting the plugs or hooking them up the wrong way. The last thing you need to hook up on top of the tank is a fuel tank vent hose. Since I removed the fuel tank fill hose to originally look inside the tank, I'm reinstalling the anti-siphon tube and the fill hose also. Just make sure you double check your work and get everything tight, because the last thing you want is a fuel leak in your ski. Now it's time to recheck the fuel pressure with fresh fuel in the tank. The first test is just checking when pressure fills the line, and once it's powered down, watching the pressure bleed back to the tank. As you can see, the pressure built up and dropped like it was supposed to. The second test is showing where the pressure should be, and that is between 49 to 52 psi pressure. I'm also running the ski with a vacuum gauge, so you can watch those readings too. The only reason why the ski is beeping is because it had low fuel in the tank. Here's a close-up view of the fuel pressure tester so you can see how good it works and how easy it is to read. If you guys have any weird problems with your skis, post the issue you have in the comments and I'll try to do what I can to help. When the fuel pressure originally tested low, the ski would start and idle fine, but it would have a sporadic top speed of 44 to 50 miles per hour. After completing this repair, cleaning the tank and replacing the fuel pump, the pressure got back to specs and the ski was finally back to running 70 plus miles per hour. If you have ever considered buying a GP1800R, I can definitely recommend it because you get a lot of power and features for your money. Some of the features are decent front, rear, and glove box storage, accessory audio systems, and on later models, integrated footwell drains. That pretty much wraps it up, guys. If you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, don't forget to smash that like button to support us and subscribe to our channel to see more cool videos like this one, and I'll see you in the next video.